There it is. We are live episode. I think this is 103. I got to do a better job of keeping track. So excited to have not your typical doctors with Doc Sarah, doctor of physical therapy, and soon to be, or doctor in training,
Yep.
Alyse. And you're getting your doctorate in social work?
Sports and performance psychology.
Oh, but you are a social worker now?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
Yes. Okay. Licensed clinical social worker and getting your doctorate. No big deal. More and more degrees.
Love those letters.
Mic drop. Bam.
Yeah. I calculate at some point, I think I've spent over $500,000 on certifications and letters behind my name. So whatever that's worth.
Right.
Where, and Alyse, I know you mentioned you're in Colorado. I was listening to a couple of your episodes. Where in Colorado are you?
Yeah, I'm right outside of Denver, but we're gonna get ourselves situated in the Springs. So Colorado Springs is gonna be our home stomping grounds. Yeah, we spent about 5 years there. About 5 or 6 years ago, courtesy of the military, and just loved it.
Yeah.
So
nice. Yeah. So I'm up in Superior right now, so we're not too far away. Yeah, and then Sarah is up in upstate New York.
Oh yeah.
My old stomping grounds. I actually got my bachelor's degree, baccalaureate, in Newburgh, New York. So I don't know how far you are from there. I think you're way up there.
Yeah, I'm like 30 minutes from Canada up there. Like I'm way.
Yeah, but like it's like the part that people are like, oh, like Buffalo. You're like, no, go up even further.
Keep going.
The part everybody forgets.
Kingston. Like I can wave to Kingston when I go to work. Yeah. Hey. So,
are you like Sarah Palin? You can see Russia from your thing. No, is that no?
Wrong, Sarah. But
wrong state.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So, you guys are not your typical doctors, and that's what she said tie-in. Y'all just really love that saying. Is that just the genesis of that whole thing? Or just it fits into the type of comedy that you're pushing?
I think we're very get to know us real quick. We'll find we're pretty opinionated women in a field that is, we are welcoming women in left and right and saying, come on in. And I think a lot of our stuff is not typical. And so, yeah, we kind of hence that name. And then, that's what she said. That's our spin.
Really
we say it, you hear it first from us, then that's what she said.
Yeah, and all fairness too, like at work, I can remember so many times that there'd be a bunch of guys like in the room and bullshitting, and that's what she said joke would come out, and then they all turn and like look at you, the one female, and they're like, oh, and my response used to be, that's what you wish she said. So surrounded by it, and it's just a good time.
It's like women, it's women focused, it's complex, there's layers to the reason.
And that's why I was asking, and then the next question is, how did y'all connect?
So we worked together at a special warfare unit for quite a few years. So
that was a less exciting story than I was hoping.
No, we were on the same human performance team, and kind of realized we were very fortunate to have a very eclectic team and a very open team, and we all just worked really well together and grew our relationship from that. So
I'd say like we really grew a human performance team in a place that didn't have one. And so there was a lot of growing and placing roots and fighting against change, or like the lack of desire for change. So yeah, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that human performance team. And from that, we love how each other practices and continue to shout from the rooftop about interdisciplinary work. So
yes, that's like our claim to fame per se, because that's what we've had the most success in by far. It's like you can only be so good by yourself, The old cliche, there's no I in team. Like that's legit.
But there is a me.
There is a me. Yeah, you can take that up with Alyse after this recording. But
nice. And I like, at least your headphones match your water bottle. That's good. So just to bring it back for 1 second. So Doc Sarah is with the Air Force Special Warfare. and there is special warfare in each of the branches of the military. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And for anyone else listening and just jumping in here, maybe through their channel, I am a civilian. I have no military connections other than many friends and many clients and things like that. But and then Alyse, are you also Air Force?
No, not any longer. I am really so I'm private practice. And then I also work, I've actually branched over to first responders. So I work with a really fantastic organization that contracts with first responder agencies and provides at least the mental health component of human performance, focusing on mental resiliency and then also just mental health in general. So that's my shtick right now.
Awesome. And so I actually have a few folks down in Colorado Springs who are military connected that you either might know already. John McCaskill, Men Talking Mindfulness. Have you heard of him?
No.
I'd love to connect you with him. Yeah, there's definitely some huge overlaps with the
that sounds great.
Stuff. And actually, when I did the dry needling course, the instructor is based in Colorado Springs, and I believe he's at the Air Force Base there. But I should double check that. I cannot confirm nor deny, but he was the one who taught the dry needling course. So Nathan Silver. But I'll connect you guys. Been trying to get him on my podcast. So Nate, if you're out there listening, I'm gonna circle back to you, sir. But
yeah, appreciate the connections. I mean, I'm new, we just recently back, right? And like in a different form than when I left. So any connections, I think that again, networking, interdisciplinary.
Your network is your net worth.
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
There you go. And so for us civilians, human performance is not a common term. I think most people would understand what it means, but is that just the vernacular used in the military? And can you all tell us a little more about that term?
Yeah, so it is the vernacular used, I would say, in military, D1 sports, and professional sports, and it's tipping into first responders as of like past couple years, I would say. So it is a growing term, but essentially the basis of it is having a wellness team per se, made up of multiple disciplines that kind of give you a well-rounded approach to both like just general health management and healthcare. But in addition, a huge focus of human performance that you don't get, I feel like, in the civilian sector is the prophylactic care. So like a huge focus is doing performance enhancement stuff, or maybe maintenance therapy or recovery work, stuff normally that you would not do because you technically wouldn't bill for it, maybe, or maybe if you were cash-based services, but you don't really get it a lot out in the civilian sector, where here that's a huge part. I mean, it's the majority of our programming, but we do the traditional like healthcare and case management and rehab, but it's weighed kind of equally as well with this prophylactic care.
Very cool.
Yeah, I would just to add, I think, if you dig into different areas of first responders, elite athletes, collegiate and professional levels, you're going to find versions where, people were at that level, right? It's like your whole job or your whole life is your job, which is performance. And so these are all aspects that you have to focus on to keep you able to do your job. I think the concept of human performance is what I love about it, is it's bringing it to a more normalized, like this should be a part of your world for everybody. Everybody benefits from learning mindfulness and like, Sarah was saying, prophylactic care, where you're getting ahead of it rather than seeking, care or fixes after the fact. So I do think the term is growing just to kind of capture the team that's probably existed to some level, but is now becoming like everybody should have this if you have people who are focused on performance.
Yeah. And since I've only been out here in Colorado for a little over a year, and it's a huge part of my practice. And I've worked with professional athletes and military, like I was saying, and just folks who have to move, whether it's for love of the game or love of what they do, or because it is their livelihood and their job, and people's lives depend on how functional you are, if we're allowed to use that term. I don't know. How do y'all feel about functional fitness?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of the basis for human performance. Our whole goal is to optimize functionality to like almost an elite level is really what I would say the focus is. So no, I think that's totally appropriate. We're huge functional advocates. I would say we tend to program and look at things much more functionally and tend to stray away from typical like training to do this or textbook type stuff. So
yeah. Well, and like, you know, Sarah said, optimal function, right? And that's a unique statement for every single person who's seeking their optimal level of function. But that's also like what's practical. That's what's going to stick. You know, there's people out there who can make everybody excel and excellent, but I think at the baseline, like function is what you're going to be able to take away and continue to do day in and day out with the job. So
yeah, no, I was kind of joking about like CrossFit and those terms get a little bastardized when F45 is, you know, using functional fitness kind of thing. So I didn't know if that was an area of kind of, you know, being a little controversy, but yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense what y'all are saying. And so, yeah, and again, it's a big part of my practice. And it's something, again, selling to the triathlete or the golfer to be like, hey, why don't we get you so you're better 10 years from now and 30 years from now? And they're not always willing to or can see the connection to, again, like the mindfulness piece or connection being a part of that, sleeping better, using like the Whoop band and things like that to optimize the body.
Don't you think, you know, again, coming in the civilian sector, because I feel like I see this too, just doing a lot of more private practice right now, but functional fitness also sells. And I think that, you know, like you were mentioning the F45 or like what was the
CrossFit?
TB12 or CrossFit, but these kinds of programs, they sell, but what's cool about them is that they sell good stuff. You know, and so I mean, yes, you'll have the people who take it to the extreme, but it also opens up the opportunity for conversation and psychoeducation. So I feel like Sarah and I are welcome, you know, and you might do this too, but somebody comes in and says what they're doing and they love it and they believe in it. It opens up the conversation with that right approachable mindset to, you know, make it work for them. And that's kind of like the end goal is to make something work for, like, to have them find something that works for them.
Yep. Safely. Yep.
Yeah.
Safely is a very important word there. Yeah, for sure.
Safely.
Yeah, and again, that's where I think the controversy that I was kind of alluding to comes from is some people get too caught up in that side of it and chasing, again, a 1 rep max deadlift when they don't have the foundations built in there, or whatever the 1,000 burpees for whatever, and not really having an intention or the science backing around that, and somebody being able to step in and be like, why are you doing that? And what's the point of that? So yeah, I've definitely seen plenty of injuries from all that, and keeps the physical therapy side of us all in business, I guess. But again, I'm with Sarah for sure of like, let's get upstream on all this stuff. And again, it's great that, so you do feel within the military, everyone's kind of bought in on those concepts, I assume, much easier than civilian life.
Ish. Yeah. So like human performance has been around in the military in like, so special forces is broken up into a couple different levels. In terms of like the top level, which is who most people think of when you say special forces, like fucking Delta Force or, like your top people. It has been around for them. Even then it's still pretty new. It's only been about 10 years, about a decade. And it is starting to trickle down into the other aspects of special warfare and special operators. So with that, there's always resistance because again, it's change and it's allocating funds that were allocated somewhere else to kind of come to something new. And so there is always resistance, whether they're young or old. In terms of the programming, I do think that's something, but we have been building the program, up over the past 4 to 5 years, and eventually the return on investment speaks for itself, but it does take time. I mean, it takes a few years before you can get to that point to show statistical rates a lot, because the military responds very well to qualitative data. So in the meantime, you just got to build where you can and try to build the relationships and rapport where you can. But unfortunately, there's resistance everywhere.
Yeah. I feel like, it's no different in the sense that they have to buy into it, right? So it's probably very similar, to what you do, where you kind of give them a nugget of information. And then if they decide to practice that nugget between the next time you see them and it creates a positive effect, they buy in a little bit more. we experience the exact same thing. The one thing that in the military, and I would even say like some first responder agencies that you'll have on your on your side, is that it's like a part of their job. It's a bit more command, directed. And so that I think sometimes gives us like, okay, they have to do it. But for us, we really focus on that buy-in. So just because we say, oh, they have to do it because it's required, you don't really have their like support for the program until they're bought in, which is no different than working with in the civilian sector.
Gotcha. And cool. Yeah. And let's jump over to your podcast. So is it mostly for military folks, or also kind of the human performance side of it? Is that I noticed the tagline is the first female human performance podcast. So is it more on the human performance side or military, kind of both? Yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot of as listening to a bunch of the episodes was very military vibes. So I was trying to keep up with, again, some of the terms being used, but I think I figured it out. But yeah, what was the main intention other than you guys getting on a call and having a good time, which it's clear you're having a good time every episode on there.
We do. Yeah, I would say it's definitely human performance themed, but the vast majority of our experience is in military. So that's why a lot of it does seem military, because that's where we're able to speak to. But because what like true human performance and tactical programming means, it is very applicable to like first responders or pro athletes are probably the closest in terms of programming. So it is applicable into anything that would be considered a tactical profession or a tactical athlete. But yeah, it's just, I would say it's human performance themed, because that was our goal. There's a lot of human performance podcasts out there, but they, in our opinion, kind of surveying the market, there was no females. So we really wanted to highlight that even though this is a very heavily male dominated field, no offense to you, sir, but we wanted to, just show that females can work in this field as well. And we're very educated and, we pull our weight and contribute. And then on top of it, there really wasn't a podcast that highlighted team integration to the extent that we were functioning at. In addition, nobody talked about the mental health part. I mean, they might tap into like feelings or this and that, but nobody was getting to the level that, I personally feel is required. And I'm sure Alyse will back this up. But yeah, nobody was getting to the level that it's actually needed at. So that was kind of our goal, was human performance with some smart chicks that have done some pretty good things. And then really trying to focus that like you're really missing the mark if you're not team integrating and you're not looking at the cognitive part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I actually did have a former Marine, Dr. Teresa Larson, who became a physical therapist as well, and worked with Kelly Starrett's team with the mobility and movement seminars. But she was a former Marine, and she actually wrote a book. I did a little book review on it recently, but she was on about 10 episodes ago, 93, talking about dealing with bulimia, being a pretty high-ranking officer over in Iraq, and how that kind of went and her struggles with that. But yeah, that was if y'all haven't connected with her, I'd love to. Again, she's part of that whole John McCaskill Men Talking Mindfulness, even though she's not a man. But she's connected into that whole group. We actually do the whole team Whoop thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you can kind of see everyone else's recovery and strain, and keeps you accountable there. Is that something that's used in that you guys have seen in terms of human performance, bio trackers in general, different brands? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, we do. There's certain contracts that are signed with companies, and the guys are wearing biometric wearables. I can speak to where I'm at right now. We use Garmin's Tactical Charlies or Phoenixes. They are like issued to the members. We also do Oura rings because the sleep tracking is a little limited on the Garmin's, but we have ran sleep studies off of the Garmin data as well. But yeah, no, we biotrack everything. We've done a couple research related initiatives through biotracking, and we continue to do that because it helps justify the program as well as kind of pay for these wearables for the guys.
Yeah, very cool. Do y'all wear them yourselves? Just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. There's
a
piece there. Yeah. Have you changed any behaviors? It's always something I'm interested in. from a human performance standpoint in terms of bio trackers actually changing some behaviors? Have you noticed any trends or things that you've changed?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So for me, it definitely helps me be accountable. Like when I'm being really shitty with my sleep, I'll kind of pull it up and be like, oh my God, I barely slept like 5 hours. Like what's happening? So I can be more attentive with like my night routine and actually trying to get restful or sleep. And then for me personally, I use it the most for like heart rate variability tracking with my workouts. So if there's times when I'm pushing out of a working zone, either going too much, it's just kind of some biofeedback to kind of chill out for a minute, stimulate something else for a second, then kind of go back. So,
yeah. Yeah, I've done sleep as well. I have a sleep tracker that and again, I use it with a lot of clients. So I try and make sure I understand it myself and have used that to try and figure out what's interrupting sleep or what the quality of sleep is to try and take a look at what might be contributing. And then heart rate variability, I've done again but from like a stress management. So again, if I'm feeling like some anxiety, or if I'm having just feeling out of sorts, then I might use it purposefully. I can't say that I'm really good about wearing them long term just because of the thing on the wrist gets annoying every once in a while.
yeah.
But I do absolutely see their value and find that they're really good tools for people to like go in and get like a visual representation of something they can't see internally. And that is always like such a good, thing to bring back and be like, okay, now we have something you feel like you can work with because you can see it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love using them with a lot of my clients, and just always excited to hear different people's experiences with it. So along those lines, yeah, so I talk about the 5 pillars of health. I'm sure you guys have some versions of that. I've heard you all touch on different aspects of it, but the 3 kind of physical being just movement. How are you moving? Can you move better, move more? Then we have the recovery piece, the nutrition piece, just what we're putting into our body. And I'm drinking some of that LMNT that hooked Sarah up with there, and her crew. Always get those electrolytes, especially here in Colorado. I'm sure you've learned that, Alyse. And the elevation will kick you in the face. And then the 2 mindset pieces, and that's what I want to get to you all about mental health. Talk about mindset in general, and then connection, which is a major thing that I think people tend to overlook when it comes to general kind of health and wellness. So yeah, I'd love to hear how mental health, especially in the military, gets discussed, and where, the big picture that y'all bring to the table on that.
Yeah. I think it is, kind of what we talked about with human performance growing and resistance to change. Mental health is something that has always been there, and it constantly gets brought up, constantly needs to be evolved. And so it's a topic that I know that Sarah and I worked really hard in our team and advocacy, within the program to normalize the conversation. For at least for me, that's where we've taken more of like a prophylactic, like a performance based, because now it feels like a topic that people are more willing to talk about. So relating anxiety and nerves and, depression and goal setting and successes versus failures. And so that, again, that's how we would open up the conversation, just to normalize, because it's not talked about enough. It's still the elephant in the room. It's still something that people fear. And this goes military, definitely first responders. I would absolutely say in, elite athletes as well. And I will even go and expand that to, I have, different like high functioning CEOs, people who run companies and things like that. When it comes to an injury of the mind, you immediately fear like the loss of everything, right? The loss of your livelihood, your finances. How do I take care? And it's such a fast spiral. And we don't normalize that conversation or make space for, like you're allowed to get injured and you're allowed to recover. So is the military, just again from the rafters, like it's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to have sadness. These are normal human emotions. If you get stuck in them, let's work on getting you out of them, but don't fear them as if there's something you're not allowed to feel in the first place.
Yeah, that's pretty potent message for sure. Appreciate you putting that so succinctly. Anything else from you, Sarah, on that mental health side?
I mean, I would say the biggest part is normalizing it, and I felt that we did a good job in trying to normalize it in places where people didn't realize that that was an actual mental health thing. So like, I mean, there was times when we were just trying to get people used to Alyse. Like we would just drag her around. Like she'd hang out in my clinic, she'd hang out in the gym, we'd take her out for rocks, we would do all the things. And those were opportunities that like when you were in the gym and someone drops like the weight when they shouldn't have dropped it, right? Like it's 50% of the 1RM. It's supposed to be, 10 sets, and it's like a mental thing. And you can notice that was an opportunity for her to be like, hey, like what's going on? Like mental blocks and performance enhancement is still part of mental health. So let me help you. And then it just kind of opens the door. Like once they realize that there's a cognitive piece to mental performance, which I mean, providers, we kind of realize it, but a lot of times that's kind of overseen, or it's not, guys don't realize it's an issue or something you can actually work through. But kind of targeting the performance enhancement way, it just opens up the door, it kind of cracks it open. So then when they do have issues or need life coaching or counseling or anything like that, it's already established. And then usually they can feel a little bit more comfortable, but it's just kind of, I guess, showing different ways that you can apply it to show how important that it is. But I feel like that's something that we did a lot, was just literally pulling mental health out of every situation. Like, oh, you think that's not mental health? Well, here's the mental health part of it, or here's the cog part of it, just to really normalize it, because it is totally normal. It's just ways to improve yourself in different ways. Like you exercise to improve your physical body, you do mental health or like performance enhancement, cognitive stuff to improve your mind. It's just working a different muscle a different way.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's one of my 5 or 2 out of the 5 really pieces when I work with my clients in terms of getting them optimized, is making sure they understand 40%. It's probably more than 40%, but I just break it down into the 5 pillars, and 2 of the 5 pillars are mental components that we should be focusing on, and making sure that at least, there's some work being done there. Again, and even on my check-ins with clients daily, when I work with a lot of folks online, it's hey, like, what's your stress level like, 0 to 5? How your interactions been with other humans in the last 24 hours? Let's reflect on that. Let's make sure that's staying at the forefront. That's where those conversations can help us minimize how many people kind of slip through the cracks, I guess, in that sense. So I love hearing that's getting implemented on a pretty significant level there, and you guys are just emphasizing that, and that's awesome. So any other closing thoughts? I want to be respectful of your time. I know y'all had a long day over there on the Sarah did, at least on the East Coast. I don't know Alyse's full day being a student.
Yeah, I just run all the time though. Don't worry. It's just I'm trying to keep up with the train. That's me.
I missed that in New York. I was in New York City, so that was I would take at least 10,000 steps in my first half of my day at least. But
yeah, super fast paced. It's the same all the way up, like New York's New York, but you get it. Fast paced, lot going on all the time. But I mean, I would I don't know, for wrap up, I would say, if you're not familiar with human performance, like look into it, see if it's something you're interested in, because again, it's just a way to make yourself better through kind of your mind and your body, which is going to make you the ultimate version of yourself, essentially.
Is there along those lines, is there like a certification to look out for? Again, you're a doctor of physical therapy like myself, and there's no like human performance. I saw HPO. Is that just is the officer, or what is the HPO?
Optimization? That's just the name of the program.
Oh, human, and that's the program you guys run, not necessarily again something they can go and somebody in random Florida.
No. I think the closest thing you're probably going to get is a CMPC is like the so cognitive mental performance consultant. That is so that's what I'm currently working towards. It is part of the next edition of Letters. But that is something that would be open to anybody in this kind of performance field. And it does kind of cover all aspects. So you're going to have to know how to be interdisciplinary with a bunch of different fields. I would say anybody else. Interdisciplinary work, we all do it, like, to some degree. And, you know, I mean, I think one of the things that we're advocating is that everybody should be doing it more, because when we start having those conversations with, you know, our counterparts in another field, you find so many more parallels, you know, and it really makes it makes the experience for the client and for you just like so much more fulfilling. So I think that that's like, no, to really short answer your question, there is no like actual certification. There's a couple of different ways. It comes back to education, which we all talked about, we love, and we just keep going after.
We do.
Yeah. But yeah, education, experience, you know, being open and asking those questions and is really where you're going to get yourself into that.
So what I heard is everyone should find a life coach. That's what I heard.
Sort of. I mean, my background was sports. My background was sports and orthopedics before I got here. And I know, Alyse, when you were reflecting, you said the most applicable was your JAL job to like this.
What, for human performance?
Yeah. Like,
I mean, yeah. So jail was like my introduction to interdisciplinary. When I worked with the Army, I worked in a recovery unit where they sent soldiers who had been injured physically or mentally, and we were an established interdisciplinary team. So it was all fields to get this person back up and running. That was a human performance team, but it was built solely from a recovery standpoint. You didn't get access to it unless you had been injured. So that was a huge, like, this is amazing. But for me, it was like, but why aren't we doing this before we're at this point?
Yeah.
And then, you know, so yeah.
Did you say jail or gel? What was
jail?
Jail. Yeah, she worked in jail before she came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it seems like Instagram is the best place to find you guys at Not Your Typical Doctors. Yes. Anywhere else? Any other wrap up thoughts y'all wanted to leave the folks with?
Yeah, we're on Instagram. We're very active on LinkedIn as well. Actually, those are two of our probably biggest platforms in terms. So we drop episodes every week. Every Monday we have something new. Sometimes we drop little short episodes or little minis on Thursdays.
Yeah, come find us. Send us a request. Send us a question. You know, widen our field, perspective just as much. Push what you want to hear from us, and
absolutely, yeah.
You know,
we love feedback. Tell us if we're doing good. Tell us if we're sucking. Like, we're here for it. Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, and I'm all about the 1% better every day. No matter how that comes along, and that's always my shtick. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being on here. Thank you for taking your time. And if folks reach out to Alyse or Doc Sarah, we can connect your Colorado Springs peoples.
Love it.
Alyse. And then we're gonna get all the LMNTs shipped out to Doc Sarah there in New York as well. And other than that, everyone have an awesome day. Hope you got 1% better. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a rating, review, blah, 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 blah. And we'll sign off on all